Hello, this is Bill Gutchess. It is May 15th, and this is another $5 bill. This one is a discussion about spreadsheets and pivot tables. So I'm going to share my screen now so I can show you a spreadsheet, and then we will start. All right, so now you should be able to see a spreadsheet. This is a collection of checks that I've redacted out of a checking account. I've shortened the payee so that I've taken some of the personal account number stuff out of it. I've also added a category and shortened the payee name so that I can more easily organize this list. But basically, we have a date the check was written, the amount it was written for, whether or not it's cleared. If there's a number, that means it was an actual check that I wrote. If not, then it was an electronic thing. Then there's the payee in the category and the original payee. So in order to insert a pivot table, you need to select all the data. So what I do is highlight the headers, do a Control-Shift down to get all of the data, and there's 458 rows of data in here. And then for the pivot table, you go to Insert in the top menu, and right there on the left is a pivot table choice. So you click on the pivot table. We have this little pop-up box that says we're going to put a pivot table into the spreadsheet, and you can either put it into a new worksheet or a new tab. As you'll see, that there's checks at the bottom here. There'll be another tab for this one, or you can put it in this existing worksheet. I don't like doing existing worksheet because it gets a little cluttered, I think, but that's just my opinion. There may be cases where you want to put it in the existing worksheet. We're not doing that this time. So we'll click into a new worksheet. We get this little message up here that says, this is pivot table 1. You notice we have a new tab down at the bottom that is sheet 1. We're going to just double click on this and change that name to pivot 1. Oops, pivot 1. And then over on the right side, there is a section of the Excel spreadsheet called pivot table fields. These are all the columns, date, amount, cleared, that are in the data, and that all that data has been collected so that it's available for the pivot table. So now we have to start to figure out what kind of information we're going to want for in our pivot table. I would suggest that we start with the short payee and put that into a row. And now we've got every one of the payees that's on that 458 line item spreadsheet listed in here alphabetically with numerics first and then A through Z. There is no Z, but A through W anyway. And those are all the payees. If we take the amount that from the columns and we say we want a sum of the amounts, and this, you'll notice that in the values it says sum of. There are other field settings that you can pick from here, like sum, count, average, max, all those things, but we want the sum of the dollars that were written to each one of these payees. So now we've got, for every entry in the detailed line items that's in the checks tab for Five Guys, we've got a total spent of $34.85. And the same thing goes for each one of these things. It's totaled them. Well, what if we wanted to know what categories these things were in? There could be all kinds of categories. So we can bring that in here and show that that the Five Guys payee is a food category, ARP is a medical, AWS is publishing. But it would actually be helpful, I think, if instead of having it in sequence by payee, we had it in sequence by category. So if we take category out of the rows and move it up to above the short payee, then we get everything that's an accessory in one group with the total, everything that's auto expense with one total, everything that's beer, I don't know why beer's there, books, cash, credit. So now we've categorized this. Now we've created a pivot table that says organize all the payees by category: accessories, auto, cash, credit, entertainment, food, and then list each one of the payees within that category and what the total expenditure was for that. Interesting piece of information. Let's say we take one more piece of information here. We want to see what the history of the dates is for the expenditures. This will take each column, January, February, March, April, May, and June, and a grand total, and show you that the expenditures for example, for ATM withdrawal and cash are these things every month: 200, 400, 800 in May, and 200 again in June. 800, there was a vacation, so I think there was a lot of cash out. But the interesting thing is, perhaps when you don't have an expense, like in Quicken Mortgage here, we've got a payment in January, nothing in February or March, April, nothing in May, and June. So that means I skipped mortgage payments in those months, or maybe the data is just not right. But at least you can take a look at the history over time of each one of the payments that were made within these categories for these payees, so you can look at what was happening over the course of 6 months. If you were to extract a full year's worth of checking information, you could get that for a full year. So now you've seen a little bit about what you can do with a raw list of all checks for 6 months, identified by category, short payee, amount, and date. Excuse me, and created a pivot table that allows you to organize them by category. And this little minus sign also says that you can just get rid of the details and just look at the summaries by category. So selectively, you don't have to do it all, so that you can take a look at, here's all the food expenditures that we had from January to June of this year. The totals by month are here. The total for 6 months is there. The expenditures by payee are here. So in January we had $18 for Aldi, and in June we had $11. In January through June we had $350 average per month for Starbucks. I wonder who did that. That would be me. And there's other information you can get from this pivot table, but now you've seen the mechanics of how to build a pivot table. Hopefully you'll enjoy that and use this training to apply stuff to your own usage. If you have any other questions, go to FiveDollarBill.com or email me at whendoyoustop.looking@gmail.com. Once again, let me give you that email address: whendoyoustop.looking@gmail.com. No spaces, no capitals. The only punctuation is the at and the dot. Whendoyoustop.looking@gmail.com. Thank you.